Change your heart, change your life, change the planet.
Hey everybody, it's Tim Van Orden, and I'm out on a gorgeous trail run in Woodford, Vermont, just above the Bennington town line. And my brain is alive with all kinds of fun thoughts right now. Amazing connections, metaphors, analogies, just lots of association happening. And this is something that I experience quite often, if not always, when I go for a trail run. So I want to talk about my process and what I've learned and how this might help you when you're trying to solve a problem. Back at my office, the studio, I have been a bit overwhelmed with the amount of work that I've got going on and all the projects that I'm currently engaged in. Super pumped, super excited, want to get this stuff done, and yet I'm lost in how to bridge some of the gaps that need to be bridged in order to get these projects moving forward. One of them being my next audiobook. I've made so much progress on it, but there's a sticking point. So what I do is I get away from the desk. Even though stand-up treadmill desk, doesn't matter. Get away from the desk, get out of that environment, get away from the computer, get away from my smartphone, except to have it to make videos and to play audiobooks in my ear, and just get away from everything related to the problem I'm trying to solve. Get out in a natural environment and soak up the smells, soak up the sights, soak up the sounds, soak up the varied terrain that my body and brain are consciously and unconsciously trying to navigate through. And the longer I'm out here, the less my mind thinks about the problem. And what I've learned in studying the brain is that we've got the left prefrontal cortex over here, which is linear, logical. It likes to solve problems in an abstract way. It doesn't necessarily like to look at the nitty-gritty. It likes to move from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 to 6. And it doesn't like to move side to side laterally or in a third dimension. It just likes to move in a straight line. And this is often where we get stuck, because the left brain only has so much data that it can work with. And when we need to step outside of that data in order to find a solution, the left brain or left prefrontal cortex is not going to allow us to do that. So by getting away from the problem, not directly thinking about the problem or focusing on the problem, but instead immersing myself in a completely different environment with completely different stimulus, but none of these stimulus is about getting anything done. Being out here in the woods, I'm not solving a problem. I'm simply moving my body. And the fact that I am moving my body causes my brain and my body to release all kinds of wonderful chemicals, hormones and neurotransmitters that get my brain to function at a much higher level. So my brain is working better, my body is working better, I'm using oxygen more efficiently, I'm producing all these chemicals that help me to be more alert and more creative and more associative. And I use more of my right prefrontal cortex, which has really, really long, deep connections into the rest of the brain. This is where we create metaphors. This is where we create these deep, interconnected associations that don't make sense on the logical, linear side of our brain. So when I come out here, I'm engaging in my right prefrontal cortex space of being in the details, being in the feeling, and being in a space where lots of different information being processed by many different brain regions comes together in one experience of moving through the woods. And I find almost always that when I finish my run, or even during the run, I'll find the solution, but I'm never thinking about it. I'm never focusing on it. I do the focused work back at home. I do the deliberate work back at home. Here's the problem. Here's what I'm trying to do. Here's the obstacle. I don't know how to get around it, or maybe I don't even know what the obstacle is yet. Okay, I need to get away. I'm a little freaked out, got a little anxiety. Come into the woods. Not only does it relax me and get me away from focusing directly on the problem, but it allows me to utilize the part of my brain that I'm not using in those stressed out, linear, logical moments. I'm using this massive computational power of the right prefrontal cortex to associate, to connect, to play with, to run simulations, and to see how things might be related to each other, and to see how a different perspective or a different metaphor, a different window, might help us to understand the problem in a way that we can't if we're simply looking at it from an entirely logical perspective, point of view. So that's one of the reasons why I trail run. It's one of the reasons why I listen to audiobooks, because it's information that has nothing to do with the problem I'm trying to solve. It's information that has nothing to do with my life. It's fun information about my brain, because it's a human brain, and about the world, and about science, and about some really cool stuff that gets me excited about being alive, because how amazing is our brain and our body and the world that we live in? Every time I listen to a book, I'm just in awe of the wonder and complexity of this world. So that gets me into a bigger space. It gets me into a more holistic space, a big picture space over here on the right, rather than the tiny, tiny, abstract, precise space of the left where the big picture doesn't exist. So coming out here, I solve all my problems. And coming out here, I solve all my depressions, because my depressions are generally created or initiated when I'm trying to solve a problem on the left. And I can't find the solution, I can't find the solution, I can't find the solution, I can't see a way out, and I get stuck there. So I come out here to get unstuck. And insight happens. It seems like an aha moment that came out of nowhere, but actually the processing and the focus that I did on the left before I came out here on the run, it's still percolating, and it's now moving over into the right, and that same information is being processed in a different way, but unconsciously. So as I'm floating through the woods listening to my book, there's a lot of my brain that's still working on that problem, but working on it in a very different way now. And then bam, insight shows up. Seems like it came out of nowhere, but it actually came from the deliberate intent focus over here that then relaxed into the more spatially oriented, holistic, bigger picture on the right. So that's a big part of my process. That's how I incorporate the information that I listen to so well. That's how I remember it. And that's how I come up with my metaphors and analogies and connections that I play with all the time. This is my real office. My office, that's just a place where I start the process. This is where I then take the next step and add flesh to that skeleton and give it life, breathe life into the abstract form that I created on my sketch pad. All right? So if you're struggling, if you're having a problem, if you can't see your way out, get out. The way out is out. Out of the thought, out of the focus, out of your mind, and out of the office into the outside. Not the inside, but the outside. Looks like I've got some company out here. That print, I would say, is about 5 inches by 5 inches. If you compare it to my hand, I would say that's about a 180 pounder. Good sized bear, not huge, but definitely a big boy or girl. So I've taken the first step. I got myself out of the car. I'm in the woods, I'm on the trail, and I'm letting myself warm up really slowly into being here, into this idea of running.